Oh my gosh, there's been all kind of updates, you guys. I can barely keep up. Listen, there's so much going on with this case. Luigi's locked up. We already know that Luigi's locked up. This sounds so weird saying that. Luigi's locked up, okay? And his attorney is actually handling business, okay? He's really shutting it down. He's trying to get him released because, again, Pennsylvania is violating their own law by not allowing to give him bond, okay? I believe they're not doing that because they're working in cahoots with New York and they're trying to stall until New York actually gets the warrants for his arrest and the indictment by the grand jury. They're going to try to work on this ASAP. You guys, they're going to try to get it done today. They need to get a true bill in order to go ahead and scoop up Luigi from Pennsylvania and then bring him to New York to answer to the charges that they believe he is accused of. Okay, so again, let's look at what's been drafted. We're going over the warrant. Let's look at what they're going to present to the grand jury. The grand jury is going to make that decision. You guys, listen. I've wrote up plenty of warrants, so this is right around my wheelhouse, you guys. For those who know, new to the channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. 13-year law enforcement veteran. I've investigated numerous cases, dealt crazy crimes, worked with the feds, have a nice extensive resume, and I currently act as an expert witness for police policy, procedures, and use of force. Okay, so listen, I love this stuff, you guys. Oftentimes on this channel, I talk about current event stuff, but when it comes to crime and law, you guys, I'm all on it, all right? So let's dive in. Let's look at the actual affidavit. And if we have time, if this video is not too long, we'll also dive into the manifesto. If not, put on another video. What are we looking at? This is the people of the state of New York versus Luigi Mangione, okay? He's the defendant. What are we looking at with these charges? This is a felony arrest warrant. They want this brother bad, okay? They want him bad. Let's go into what the charges are, okay? Midtown North Precinct Detective Squad states the follow. Detective Yusuf Demez, I think that's his name. He's the one who's putting and drafting up. He's probably the head investigator, maybe. But this is what we're looking at. Murder in the second degree, okay, 1 count. Criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree, 1 count. Criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree again. Sorry about that. So, and that's 1 count. Criminal possession of forged instrument in the second degree, okay. Criminal possession of a weapon in the third degree. So I don't know why there's so many of what it seems like the same count. Could be a couple things. It could be just speculating. I don't know New York's law, you guys, so I apologize. I don't know why there's so many counts of weapons. It could be a couple different things. Forged instrument, they're referring to, more than likely this has to probably be the ID, the fake ID that they confirmed that Luigi had in his possession when he was arrested. Weapon in the second degree, a weapon in the third degree. I don't know what those are, so I apologize. I didn't look them up. I didn't think they were going to have this many charges. This, you know, you got the weapon and you got the homicide, right? So I thought that was all that was really going to be on here. So again, this first time looking at it, we're going through it together. So right here, you guys, the way these warrants work is the affidavit is what's drafted up and given to the judge, okay? So for example, if I'm working this case, I'm looking at all the evidence, okay, that I have. I'm looking for, trying to establish probable cause, okay? And probable cause is simply just when you look at all the totality of the circumstances, the facts, the evidence, a reasonable person will believe that a crime occurred, did occur, or will occur, right? That is the basis for probable cause, all right? In order for us to actually get the warrant, the judge wants to look at how we tied the actual events to the actual criminal violation and then also to the person. We call this the nexus, okay? The nexus. We want to see how things flow and weave into each other properly. You have to make the connection. When you make that connection, the judge looks at it and says, okay, the spirit of the law is alive in this, all right? And I agree. And the judge looks at, makes sure that everything lines up, that the elements of the crime are articulated properly and they come together in unison, all right? That's kind of like the best way to explain it. The judge looks at it and says, okay, cool. I think based on your analysis, based on the totality of the circumstances, based on your investigation, I believe that this charge is appropriate. The judge signs off on it. So what you're going to see in this document, this affidavit, is the summary. You start off by just explaining like the date and time when it happened. You want to paint the premise, okay? What was going on. And so that's what you see here on or about December 4th, 2024, 6:44 a.m. outside of the address location 1335 Avenue of Americas in the county and state of New York. The defendant, okay, which is Luigi, with intent to cause the death of another person. Okay, this is key for the charge. They're saying that this is intent. This was premeditated. This is what he wanted to do. You guys, it's hard to get an intent murder charge. There's a couple things you got to prove, right? Again, this is pre-planned. This is something that he was doing. He was lying in wait. He had this whole thing orchestrated. This is what they are alleging. So this starts off with, again, with the intent to cause the death of another person, comma, cause the death of such person. The defendant possessed a loaded firearm. Sorry, the highlighter sucks on here. I couldn't actually get the PDF, you guys, so I apologize. The defendant possessed a loaded firearm with intent to use it unlawfully against another. The defendant possessed a loaded firearm outside of his home and place of business. The defendant uttered and possessed a forged instrument of a kind specific in section 1710. Well, this is an interesting charge. So I thought this was about the actual fake ID, but it seems like this is related to the 3D printed gun. Possibly, you guys. I didn't look at the charge. Again, we're just going through the affidavit. I'll double back and check if you guys have questions. But for right now, we really just want to see what information is put on here that they are connecting him to the actual crime, how they are articulating that. All right, so it looks like that charge might be related to the actual fake gun, or I won't say fake gun, but, 3D printed gun. The factual basis for the charges are as follows. I have reviewed surveillance video depicting the exterior of the Hilton at above location, specifically camera angle depicting 54th Street between 7th Avenue and the Avenues of America, and surveillance footage at approximately 6:44 a.m. Amen. Okay, this is that famous video of him walking up behind, the suspect walking up behind the CEO and then Mr. Thompson, and then again executing him. Okay, so this is the video that he's talking about. He's saying, hey, I reviewed that video, and on that video, this is what I observed. He's putting this in the affidavit for the actual judge to look at to get the approval. Wearing a distinctive clothing outfit, the shooter, okay, again, this is important. In the affidavit, he's identifying the suspect as the shooter. Why? At this time, in this summary, the shooter's unknown. In this actual summary, he should connect as it unfolds that later the shooter was identified as so-and-so, or later we suspect the shooter is so-and-so. Okay, so right now you're talking about how the investigation, a summary of how the investigation unfolded. You're writing that out in your affidavit. A distinctive clothing. The shooter approached Brian Thompson from behind, and then the shooter held what I recognized to be a firearm with a silencer attached at the end, and fired it several times at Brian Thompson, causing him to collapse on the ground. I am informed by Detective Oscar Diaz of Manhattan South Homicide Squad that he was present for the autopsy of Brian Thompson. Okay, the cause of death was determined to be a gunshot wound to the torso. All right, the defendant is the person shooting and killing Brian Thompson in the above described surveillance footage, based on evidence collecting during the investigation, including but not limited to. Okay, what are they saying? He believes that, without a doubt, the defendant, Luigi, is the shooter. And now he's going to say why he's come to that conclusion. What evidence do you have? What did you put together? How you put it together? Please explain it to me. And this is what we're going to see here. Now listen, the cool thing about the affidavit, as investigators, you don't have to put all your details, right? You don't want to put all your details. You only need to put enough to substantiate the charge. right, to make sure you have the probable cause. You don't want to put all your details in because you want to kind of, again, it's a cat and mouse game. You don't want the defense to know what you know, okay? You don't want to give them a head start. So they're going to put just enough needed to that's going to be required to get the actual charge, get this thing signed, okay? Homicide squad detective was present at the autopsy, advised that he died from a gunshot wound to the torso. The defendant is the person shooting and killing Brian Thompson in the above described surveillance footage, based upon the evidence collected during the investigation, included but not limited to. Okay, that's key, not limited to, because you're basically saying that there's more, but this is just a little sauce. I'm gonna give you a little sprinkle. We can't give you too much, all right? Number one, surveillance footage that I have reviewed from the H1 New York City hostel at 8091 Amsterdam Avenue, which depicts the same man wearing the same clothing leaving the hostel on December 4th at 5:34 a.m. Okay, that's key because we didn't know this before. Okay, one of the things I said before, you guys, is like, hey, listen, they have to be able to show him consistently in play, right? No break in view, showing him from point A to point B and then carrying out the actual crime. Because if not, you can always make an argument that that's not me. Okay, they know that he's in that hostel. They have the camera footage for it. What they're saying here in this affidavit is that, hey, we know that he was staying in this hostel, this hotel. We know that the gentleman who left wearing this outfit, okay, matches the same outfit of the shooter. Whether or not they can trace him consistently without any interruptions from that moment at what time was this? 5:34 in the morning, we don't know, okay? But they're able to say that the actual shooter, they believe they have him leaving the hostel, the same hostel that we know that Luigi was staying at when he presented that ID, allegedly, okay? So this is where they're getting it. We followed him leaving the hostel 5:34 a.m., okay? Number two, the surveillance footage that I have reviewed from the same hostel that depicts the same man checking into the hostel on November 24th, 2024 at above 11:20 p.m. and showing a driver's license upon check-in. So they rolled the cameras back all the way to November 24th, okay? They're saying that Luigi checked in during that time and he used a particular license to identify himself for the check-in. Number three, I've reviewed business records from the hostel that show that the man provided a New Jersey driver's license in the name of Mark Rosario on it. Okay, we know Mark Rosario is a name on the fraudulent ID that they're saying Luigi had in his possession when he got arrested, and is the one that he passed to the counter when he was at the hostel, that the lady required him to pull his mask down so she could verify his face. What a coincidence, right? So let's go to number four. I'm informed by Detective Diaz that he informed the patrolman Tyler Tyree of the Altona Police Department that December 9, 2024 at 9:58 a.m. the defendant was taken into custody at McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. That defendant presented a forged New Jersey driver's license with the name Mark Rosario as identified, which, based on the number on it, was the same identification the defendant presented at the hostel and the defendant's belongings. Patrolman Christy Wazer found a semi-automatic pistol with what appears to be a 3D printed loader receiver with a metal slide and silencer and written admission about the crime. So that's what he's saying. This is just the bare bones minimum information they're giving just to get the warrant signed, okay? So we now know how or why they're so confident. They believe that the shooter, they're able to track the shooter leaving the day of the shooting out of the building wearing a different outfit, the face covered, leaving the hostel, and then carrying out the actual shooting, all right? Let's go to the next page. Okay, that's just something that the detectives have to sign, that this is a true statement. You got to swear. Okay, you swear and you sign. This is the one thing I was talking about in the previous video, you guys. I think it was video maybe 3 or 4. And I was basically saying that you have to be able to show that there has been a consistent tracking of his movements. Why? Because the shooter is completely concealed. All right, completely concealed. When they first released this information, they talked about how they caught him coming out from the subway, right? And then he went to where? He went to, I guess, Starbucks, and then he got something to drink. He got something to eat. Okay, so that's kind of where they left us at in a sense. But this is now showing us why they are confident that it's him. Is that information solid? Will it work? It can be challenged. Okay, it can be challenged. Why do I say that? Of course, it's circumstantial. The idea is that it just so happens that Luigi is staying at the same hostel that the shooter is staying at. You know what I mean? Well, depends on how the defense tries to defend this argument. He could say, hey, my client was kidnapped. You know what happened? You guys, Luigi went missing for like, what, 2 months, I think? And his parents put out they reported him missing. All of a sudden he pops up later on. He's in New York, okay? And now he's one of the most wanted man currently in 2024. You know, what defense his attorney's going to come up with? You guys, we don't know. I can tell you some potential defenses. I can tell you some potential arguments. You guys, why? Because this is what I do, right? My job is to look at these cases and basically help attorneys decide whether or not, one, the officer did the job properly, or is there something better the investigator could have done? Or did the investigator fail to do something that they should have done? And what should they have done, right? My job is to, whether I'm working for the prosecution side or the defense side, my job is to give them a strategy, a system with a strategy, or analyze the opposing side strategy and give them my unbiased opinion. So when I look at these things, again, we don't have all the information. But you guys, what is a potential defense? You could always say that's not me, right? Because you can't verify 100% that that's the suspect. This is why they're leaning so much on getting the evidence, trying to put him physically at the scene being the shooter, or they have to rely strictly on circumstantial evidence, which they don't want to do. I can assure you, because for obvious reasons, you know, it could be challenged a lot harder. So, but what they are saying is that, hey, we have the gun, we have the manuscript that you wrote, we have the fingerprint from the bottle, which is questionable, and I'm going to tell you why. I'll probably carry that for another video. We're going to break down the evidence, and I'll give you my counter thoughts and how you can challenge this type of evidence in the next video. They found the phone. You guys, I've never in my life seen a crime carried out so meticulously, so methodically, and at the same time the evidence placed so obviously and almost, one could argue, purposely prepared so that it could be found, okay? Which is why I'm so up in the air about this case, and why so many theories branch out of this case, leading to a couple things, right? Luigi's either the puppet, or he's the puppeteer, okay? Or there's a splinter cell walking around who kidnapped him, set this whole thing up, is framing him, and he's now the patsy, okay? Everything that makes sense doesn't make sense at all, okay? And the further you dive into the backstory of all the players involved, it reeks government corruption, behind the scenes, spec ops, splinter cell action, okay? Like, there's all type of crazy things going on. MK Ultra, I know a lot of people are saying that, which it's a likelihood that could be a case too. If you're not familiar, I'm gonna cover that in another video. You guys, there's things that go on in this country that happen below the surface that would absolutely blow your mind. From assassins to people being hired on the dark web to people, brainwashed killers, assassins, who can turn on and off based on, a switch. This is also my theory with a lot of these school shooters, right? I believe there are people who are able to make things happen, okay? Turn one that was dormant and make them active, okay? That's a real thing. I believe it. I know it sounds crazy, but the truth is stranger than fiction. So again, there's a lot of things. He's either the puppet or the puppeteer now, or the patsy. He could have been held ransom. something that his family was involved in. Someone's doing the get back situation. He's being extorted. Again, there's Pelosi, right? There is the issue with the stocks of the company. Okay, you have a man who's making $10 million a year as a CEO, which is ridiculous. The company, United Healthcare, made, I guess, the last quarter last year, $8 billion. Okay, no one, the media is not even covering the fact that the corruption surrounding the insurance scams of this country is astronomical. People have died left and right because of corporate greed. No one is talking about that, all right? And there's a good chance that this is a whole psyop and that they're doing this to distract us from all the other foolishness that's going on as our country is being yanked from underneath our feet. We have drones flying all over the place that are not being addressed. We have the issue with our economy. We have the issue with the border. We have the issue with enemies sneaking in from backdooring us. No Diddy. Okay, we have, what else we got going? We're on the brink of World War III. We got BRICS. We got this. We got all kind of stuff going on, you guys. And we can't even keep a lid on our own trash in our country. We're tearing each other apart. Racial division. For whatever reason, Black Lives Matter is still a thing. You know, and again, it's getting so old. We're so distracted. We're so distracted. We got the Diddy thing, the Jay-Z thing, okay? We're still waiting on the Epstein files. You guys, they act like they solved this crime already. We can't even figure out who shot the president, okay? So, I mean, welcome back to the channel, you guys. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Share the video. Let me get your thoughts. Sorry for the rant. Meet me back here. We're going to dive into the evidence, all right? And we're going to go through a timeline. I'm going to walk you through the timeline. I'm going to tell you why I think this whole case, this is a game, you guys. And the game is on. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Good night. God bless.